sister-in-law accidentally revealed my wife's affair at Thanksgiving, so I nuked their relationships with their family. My wife, Becca, 27, female, and I, 28, male, have only been married for 2 years. It's not the longest marriage, but I always thought it was a good one. We built on shared beliefs, with one of the biggest ones being that our family came first. That meant that me, her, and the children we were planning on having were the most important things in our lives. We mapped out everything. We were already saving for a house, and we even picked out our location based on crime rates and good schools in the area. We wanted to settle down somewhere that would be great to raise kids. Becca's family also believed in keeping the family close. Holidays were very important to them, and they always made a big production for them, especially Christmas and Thanksgiving. We always spent holidays with them since my mom was gone and I wasn't close with my dad. He wasn't great while I was growing up, which is why it was so important to me to build a healthy family. Holidays at our house were always chaotic, but also warm. There was a family atmosphere that I never really got to experience growing up, so I always looked forward to it. This year's Thanksgiving was mostly the same at first. Her parents always invited as many family members as they could, so there were always a lot of people over. It made for a crowded scene, but I really didn't mind. I spent most of the early afternoon talking with Becca's parents, especially her dad. Her mom was a high-energy type who was always bouncing around the house making sure all the guests were comfortable. Her dad was more laid back and preferred to sit in front of the TV chatting with anyone who came near him. Her parents were good people and I enjoyed their company. They liked me a lot too. They always had, even back when Becca and I had just started dating. That was another reason why I had no problem visiting them for the holidays. There was also Lisa, who was Becca's sister. I talked with Lisa's husband Kevin when he arrived. I got along with him pretty well too. I didn't have much choice, to be honest. Becca and Lisa were very tight, and they did everything together. They'd been that way since they were kids, so it was unavoidable that Kevin and I would end up becoming friends. He was a cool guy since I got to know him though, so I didn't really mind having him around. By the time everyone arrived, the house was buzzing. Kids were running around, cousins and relatives were arguing, and the kitchen was a hive of activity. It was the kind of chaos I'd come to appreciate from her family and why I was looking forward to starting my own soon. While Kevin and I were talking, I decided to run to the kitchen to get some drinks for us. Becca and Lisa were in there with their mom working on Thanksgiving dinner. Their mom was moving around the kitchen, keeping busy and giving orders while Becca and Lisa chatted and laughed. They were all so busy that they hadn't noticed me in the kitchen yet. Lisa was at the sink talking over her shoulder to Becca, who was stirring something on the stove. Their mom was in 3 places at once, so she didn't see me watching them from the doorway. At that moment, her whole world consisted of the food and the 2 women who were helping her prepare it. She wouldn't have noticed me if I was painted silver. I stood watching them for a moment. The coordination was impressive, and the food smelled delicious. Normally, I would have tuned out their chatter, but they said something that caught my attention. It was just a few words from Lisa. "And what about Derek?" followed by Becca's response. "You know that Derek doesn't count." My ears perked up, and I instinctively ducked out of the doorway. Now I was actively eavesdropping, and I didn't want them to catch me before I could figure out what they were talking about. Lucky for me, they were all still too busy to notice me. Becca went on to say that he didn't count because he wasn't her ex. Liz added yet. Becca giggled and shushed her, then turned to see if her mom had heard her. She was too busy marching around the kitchen to pay attention to them. But Becca's eyes met mine while she was turned. Her eyes widened and she jolted a bit. It was obvious that she was surprised to see me there, and it wasn't the good kind of surprise. She was scared that I'd overheard them. It took all my willpower to pretend I hadn't heard anything. I walked in casually, hoping Becca wouldn't be able to tell I was standing there the whole time. I walked to the fridge while asking them how it was all going. Their mom told me it was all good, and then she hustled me out of the kitchen. After I got what I came for, she joked that she didn't want me to distract Becca, but I knew my presence was ruining the efficiency of her perfect system. I let myself be swept out of the kitchen. I was too shocked to fire off a playful comeback. I was still processing what Lisa and Becca had said while trying to pretend I hadn't noticed it. What I got from it was that they were probably discussing exes. Lisa had included Derek as one of Becca's exes, and she insisted he didn't count because he wasn't her ex yet. If my assumption was correct, that implied that she was still seeing Derek. I was in a daze when I handed Kevin his drink. He noticed my mind was somewhere else and asked if everything was all right. I just made up a story about my boss asking if I could come in that day. That sent Kevin into a rant about how his own boss that I didn't fully pay attention to. I was busy trying to wrap my head around this new mystery. When dinner came, I became more convinced that something was wrong. I caught Becca and Lisa several times stinking glances at me out of the corner of my eye. I pretended not to notice them. In fact, I did my best to pretend everything was fine. I joked and laughed with everybody. I even teased Becca like I usually would. At first, she was quiet and cautious, like she was trying to judge how much I really knew. Eventually, she seemed to decide that I hadn't heard anything, and she started to relax. I was smiling on the outside, but inside I was boiling. I wasn't going to cause a scene at Thanksgiving. I didn't have any proof that she was actually dating some guy named Derek. I wasn't even 100% sure yet. I just had to sit there and pretend to be happy with her while my mind was racing through all sorts of horrible images and scenarios. I went home in a bad mood. Just overhearing a few words had ruined Thanksgiving completely for me, and I still had to pretend everything was fine. If she caught on to the fact that I knew about Derek, that she might clean up her act, then I'd never be able to find out the truth. Even though she'd mostly gone back to normal herself, she still spent the rest of the night looking for signs that I knew something. I did a great job playing innocent. I even managed to kiss her goodnight and pretend it didn't make me feel sick. I just had to hold on until I could get a hold of her phone. By the end of the night, she was certain she was in the clear because she slept like a baby. She fell asleep in no time and didn't even budge an inch when I took her phone and opened the bathroom door. I locked myself in there and started going through her messages. She had a lot of contacts and I couldn't find a Derek. If there really was a Derek, then she saved his number under a different name. I decided against searching through all the contacts for him. She could wake up any minute and notice I had taken her phone with me. My best bet was to check out what she had been talking about with her sister. Instant results. They'd been talking that same night about what happened in the kitchen. Lisa seemed anxious and kept asking if he had heard what they were talking about. Becca assured her that I was completely clueless. She even laughed that I'd given her a foot massage because she'd been on her feet all day. Obviously, I knew nothing about Derek, or I would have either blown up at her or given her the silent treatment, so I'd managed to successfully lull her into a false sense of security. I should have been proud of how good my amateur acting skills turned out to be, but I was just disappointed. She'd pretty much confirmed that she was having an affair with Derek. Scrolling further back into their messages revealed more, though. She told her sister when she met Derek a few months ago. She told Lisa about him, and she'd actually encouraged her to start seeing him on the side. Lisa claimed that single men treated you differently from married men. Married men were good for their security and someone safe to come home to every night, and single men provided the excitement that she claimed every woman needed. I had to stop reading to rub my temples with my fingers. I felt a wicked headache developing, the kind that stabs behind your eyes. I have a history of migraines in my family, and I actually started wondering if this had triggered my first one. So was Isa the safe option? We were saving up for a house, planning a family, and I was just the safe option. I was just someone to come home to at night while she had fun with Derek. I was furious. It felt unreal that I'd actually been in love with her that morning. Now I just hated her. I didn't even care if she caught me. I needed to see everything. There was still more to see. Lisa was cheating too. I know, not surprising considering her safe man, exciting man philosophy, but it pissed me off even more. Kevin wasn't one of my best friends or anything, but he was a good guy. He definitely didn't deserve that. They were both completely casual about it. Lisa talked about how she'd met her side guy at her Pilates class and how Kevin was completely clueless. Becca opened up about how she'd met Derek through a mutual friend, and they both started swapping stories. I screenshotted everything, emailed it to myself, and deleted the sent email from her history. I tried to find Derek in her phone, but it came up empty. I had to come to the conclusion that she deleted her conversation with him when she suspected she'd been caught. I put her phone back where I found it and tried to get some sleep. He'd been charged with indecent exposure after flashing a group of girls in his college while drunk on campus. I could see why she wanted him for the excitement. While the investigator had been doing his job, I followed my lawyer's instructions, getting ready for the divorce. I froze the joint account so she couldn't drain it. Once I confronted her, I opened my own personal account and redirected my paycheck and secured every important document I had. My lawyer emphasized the importance of continuing to act normal. That was the hardest part, but I managed to pull that off too. I'll never forget the day I told Becca I wanted a divorce. It made everything worth it. I didn't tell her I wanted to talk or sit her down. She was watching TV. I just sat on the couch across from her and said, "I knew about Derek and I wanted a divorce." She looked at me like I was a ghost. When she could finally talk, she just said, "What are you talking about?" I told her not to bother denying it. I asked if she remembered her conversation with Lee on Thanksgiving. As soon as I said the word Thanksgiving, she put her head in her hands and swore loudly. She stayed like that while I continued to talk. I told her that I'd heard her, gone through her messages on her phone, and even had pictures of her and Derek with their arms around each other. I asked if she knew about the indecent exposure conviction, but she didn't move or say a word. I sat there waiting for her to say something. I didn't mention anything about Lisa and her affair. I was going to keep that in my pocket for later. She looked up after a few silent minutes and started apologizing. She was so sorry. I told her I was glad everything was fixed now because she was sorry. She scrunched up her face at my sarcasm and asked me to give her a chance. I gestured at her to go ahead. She started rambling and said that she'd been confused and Derek didn't mean anything. She just gotten tired of the pattern of our marriage and Derek made her feel the way she felt when we first started dating. I asked if she thought sleeping with another man was a better solution than talking to me about that. That's when the tears fell, and she said that I wasn't going to give her a fair chance. She said she realized that it was a mistake now, and that she would fix everything. I told her I was already fixing it myself. We were getting a divorce. I'd already arranged a new place to stay, and I was going to move out immediately. She didn't even have time to process that before I hit her with the next surprise. I told her that I also had proof of Lisa's affair, and I would tell Kevin about it if she tried to make the divorce difficult for me. She said I couldn't do that. I said I was, and it was up to her whether she wanted to destroy her relationship with her sister. Cue the pleading. She offered everything she could think of. She said she'd give up her phone, go to counseling, and even offered to let me sleep with someone else. I said I'd already thought about this for 2 weeks, and my mind was made up. My threat really kept her in line. I didn't say anything to her family at first about her affair or Lisa's, and the divorce went through smoothly. She didn't ask for alimony, and we split the joint account fairly. Honestly, I was lucky that she cared so much about how her family saw her because that gave me leverage against her. And when the divorce was over, I used it all against her anyway. First, I called her parents and gave them the whole truth on why our marriage came to an end. Not the mutual decision crap I let her feed them. Her dad got angry at her and her mom actually cried. Like I said, the two of them liked me and they were pissed that their daughter had ruined our relationship like that. Beta flipped out on me. She actually had the nerve to ask why I did that after what she did for me. I asked her to tell me what she'd done for me. She answered that I hadn't fought back during the divorce, and she let me off the hook without alimony. I told her that if anything, she'd gotten more than she deserved out of the divorce. I was just balancing the scales and making sure justice was done. She said I didn't care about justice. I was being vindictive. Her parents were furious with her, and they completely refused to talk to her now. Her sister was the only one who would still give her the time of day. Not for long. Not if I had anything to say about it. I called Kevin personally and told him what I'd seen on Becca's phone. I sent him the screenshots of the two of them discussing their affairs. He took it much the same way I did. He couldn't believe that the person he'd been planning a future with could betray him like this. I gave him the same advice I got from my last post and even sent him the contact info for my lawyer and PI. He took my advice and didn't confront Lisa right away. He spent time gathering evidence against her and securing his assets just like I did. And when he sprung it on her, he was fully prepared. I asked him to let Lisa know that I was the one who had told him about the affair and that I found out from Becca's phone. Call me petty, but I wanted Lisa to know who to blame, and she definitely blamed Becca. I found out from Kevin that she tried to pin everything on her. First, Lisa said Becca was the one who encouraged her to have an affair because she was having one. Kevin told her that he'd seen the screenshots and just like my ex-wife, she couldn't talk her way out of it. Eventually, she gave up and claimed Becca had ratted her out because she didn't want to go down alone. Kevin and I were both happy to let her think that Becca was not. She called me crying this time. She asked if I wanted to ruin her life. I reminded her that we both had a good life together, and she was the one who had taken the first step in destroying it. None of this would have been happening as she hadn't slept with Derek. Of course, she wasn't interested in listening to logic. She was determined to blame me for the mess her life had become. Her parents were disappointed in her, and her sister blamed her for her marriage falling apart. Somehow that was all my fault for being cheated on by her. I didn't argue much with her. I said she might fix her relationship with her family one day in the far future. Or maybe, like me, she would have to build her life all over again on her own. I told her I didn't care how it turned out because we were even now, and that's all that mattered to me. If there's anything I regret about how I handled things, it was keeping Kevin in the dark. I hated thinking about how he was still going home to a cheating wife, but I had to make sure to protect myself fully before I could mention it. This might sound odd too, but I'll miss her family as well. I always enjoyed holidays with them. It was nice to feel a sense of warmth and closeness that I was never able to enjoy growing up. And even though Becca ruined that, sometimes I still wish I could pop by for another gathering. Of course, that's out of the question. I've cut myself off for good and I'm moving on. If you've got loved ones you can cherish throughout the holidays, then please enjoy that while you can. You don't know how good you've got it. Becca can cry, deflect, blame, and twist it however she wants. But the reality is simple. You rebuilt your life with dignity. She lost hers because she gambled on the belief you would stay quiet. You didn't. And now she's living with the fallout of her own arrogance. Angry parents, a furious sister, a destroyed reputation, and no one left to blame except the mirror. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on our space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.